everybody. Today's guest on Street You Grew Up On is a phenom. She's so super cute. She's an incredible singer and songwriter and actress. She's also a coach on The Voice. She does all the things. I adore her. You're going to too. Welcome, Camila Cabello.
To give you a hug because I adore you too.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to talk to you.
I'm so excited to hang out with you.
So I want to tell you, I started doing this because my production company, Simpson Street, is named after the street in the Bronx that my mother grew up on.
Wow.
And so I felt like that street is kind of my origin story. It's my once upon a time. Like when we heard stories about my grandparents who came to the US from Jamaica, from the islands, Simpson Street was like their once upon a time.
What does once upon a time mean, like in that context?
It's how, you know, every fairy tale starts once upon a time.
Right.
So like the beginning of the story. Because I think, and this is a lot of what we try to do at Simpson Street, we try to affirm the idea that every single person is the hero of their story.
Yeah.
Like you're not a supporting character, you're the main character in the story of your life.
It's like the Joseph Campbell.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The hero's journey.
The hero's journey.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna start in a kind of unorthodox way by asking you to tell me the street you grew up on by telling me your porn name.
Oh my God.
Meaning, your porn name is the name of your first pet and then the street you grew up on.
Ooh, okay. Ringo 86.
That's kind of amazing.
It's giving like, I feel like my porn name is very like cowboy, like I play with like my masculine side.
I love it.
My once upon a time is not linear at all because I moved around a lot.
Yeah.
I was born in Cuba. My mom is Cuban. My dad is Mexican. So they met in Mexico. My mom was an architect in Cuba and then left Cuba because there's just kind of like such a like ceiling for people in Cuba. And so she wanted to just pursue life elsewhere.
Yeah, to see what the possibilities were off the island.
Yeah, and I think like the revolution that started with my grandparents, and then by the time it was my mom's generation, I think that's when it kind of like started crumbling in terms of like there was like the how do you say like apagón, like the lights would go off for days and like the food shortages and all
the rations.
Yeah, the rations, like all that started happening in my mom's generation. So she was like, oh, this kind of dream that they've sold to my parents' generation, my generation is kind of like, oh, it's not quite adding up here. So she went to Mexico. That's where she met my dad. And so from the time that I was born to 7 years old, I was back and forth between Cuba and Mexico.
Wow.
Yeah. So the street that I feel like I have the most scent memory, visual memory is what I learned is Calle 86.
Okay.
Which before, I actually didn't know what the street was called. I just thought the part where we're from is Cojimar. But I actually didn't know what the street was called.
That's in Cuba, Cojimar.
That's in Cuba, yeah, in Havana.
Oh, wow. Wow. And when you say you have sense memory, like the sounds and the smells, what were they?
I think of like cigarettes for me trigger something because my grandma has smoked since she was like 15 years old.
Wow.
So she was always smoking, and I think my parents were smoking too until I like literally like.
You saved their lives.
Yeah, I saved their lives.
No more.
You're welcome.
When you smell cigarettes, does it kind of take you home?
I like it. Yeah.
What was the house like? Was it, how many bedrooms did it have? Was it like one floor? Was there an upstairs?
There was a downstairs, and then there was an upstairs because my grandparents, they separated, and then my grandpa lived on the top floor for a while. And I remember like we had outside, like my grandparents had like rabbits, and they had like, they really, really spoiled me when I was younger. I think we had like a llama or like a goat or like something like that.
Tell me what the street was like then. Were there a lot of houses on the street, or was it was very rural? What was that?
A lot of houses on the street, not very rural, because I'm pretty sure, and my mom might see this interview and then be like, just so you know, just like fact check me.
That's okay, because it's also as much about how you remember it.
Yeah,
you know?
Totally. Well, I think my parents also, because they were immigrants, like they immigrated when they were like, I was 7. So they must have been like in their early 30s when they came to the United States. My dad like crossed the border.
Wow.
Yeah, like crossed the river.
Walked across.
Swam
across the river. So he came first?
My mom and I came to Miami first.
Okay.
And then my dad met up with us a year after. I think I learn a lot about my upbringing as I get older. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like they're like sitting around like, oh, I feel like it's almost like they are maybe now at a place where things are maybe settled and calm enough to be like, oh, the crazy and dangerous parts of the story are over. Now we can kind of reflect.
So what was it like for you to leave to come to the States? Do you remember? Do you remember leaving the street you grew up on?
I think a lot of like immigrant parents or immigrant children might relate to this, but I think like immigrant parents like kind of feel like kind of have to lie a lot. Do you know what I mean?
Like upsell you. It's gonna be great.
Well, they told me that we were going to Disney World. They didn't really explain to me what was happening. I was also really, really young, so I didn't know that I was leaving forever. I'm pretty sure all they told me was like, we're going to Disney, and I was like really young.
Just so I understand, was there like a plan to eventually take you to Disney, or was it really just like?
I think that was probably the dream. Yeah,
eventually
totally.
we're
gonna have enough money to go to Disney.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, totally.
This is the necessary step in getting you to
exactly.
Disney
I think Disney was maybe the metaphor for
a better life, a better
totally.
like where your wishes come true.
Yeah, totally.
What memories do you have of leaving or of arriving? Either one.
I remember a train or a Greyhound. We took like a Greyhound bus because my mom went from Cuba to Mexico to here.
Oh.
Because Cubans at that time, there was a different law where Cubans could cross to the United States and get asylum, like citizenship. So that's why my dad had to get kind of left behind because he's Mexican, not Cuban.
Right.
And then I remember being on a Greyhound bus and I had like a journal. I remember my mom like carrying me over her shoulder and like going into a gas station and like trying to speak English, but like kind of speaking broken English, and I was like asleep.
Did you speak English at the time?
No, I spoke no English.
You learned English when you came here. And you sing in both English and Spanish.
Yeah.
Is one more comfortable than the other for you?
I think singing wise, I actually love singing. I like singing in Spanish more because I think that there's a part of my brain that speaks Spanish is almost like subconsciously, it's like the kid part that has no emotional complications. Does that make sense?
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Like, can you imagine? It's like from 7 to 25, it's a shit show. Like, it's like
It's complicated.
It's complicated. There's anxiety, there's this happens. It's like all of the hard stuff happened at that time. So when I speak Spanish, subconsciously, my voice gets higher. It's kind of like I'm like younger again. And I think there's just less, but writing in English is so much easier for me because I have so much more vocabulary. Like in Spanish, I have a lot less. So that's when I like need help to maybe like express or fill in this word to kind of make for a wittier, punchier line. Whereas in English, I can write totally by myself and I can express myself to the fullest of my feeling. Do you know what I mean?
I do. This is such a technical question, but as an artist, like artist to artist, do you find, I wonder, because it's like your playful side of yourself, your Spanish singing voice, are you able to take more vocal risks?
100%.
Really?
I mean, when I
love that.
When I write in English, like there's been times where I've written with English and the producer, like I'll be like, because how I write is very like, I'll like get in a booth and I'll be like, oh, there's a teacup and it's yellow and you got me feeling mellow, whatever.
Yeah.
Right? So
that was amazing.
Thank you. But then like
I need a theme song for my show. Just
okay,
saying.
I got you. When I kind of go into the Spanish, it'll pull something totally different because I think I'm getting references from these other things. I'm getting references from reggaeton and David Bisbal and Alejandro Sanz, like all these other artists. So I'll be writing a song in English, but they'll be like melodically, I'll freestyle in Spanish, even if I end up writing
just to be able to find more pathways to get to what you want.
Yeah, I think I'm really inspired by how I grew up, even if it was a really small chunk of my life. My grandma was like obsessed with music and like would make mixtape of boleros. Like she's like always like, you have to make a bolero for me. You have to make, like music is like such a big part of our family. Like in my house in Cuba, they would like throw these like family parties and it would be like, they would be dancing all night and like my grandpa would cook the pork, and my grandma would make the beans, and like at the end of every party, my dad and my grandma will sing together. Like that's just such a big part of.
What do they sing? Are they singing the classic boleros? Or are they singing?
They actually end up singing a lot of Mexican songs.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I guess my dad rules the karaoke. I'm realizing my dad has an amazing voice too.
Does he?
Yeah. All the generations would be at that house, like partying and dancing. When we came to Miami, it was like me, my mom, and my dad. And it was like
your world kind of shrunk.
Yeah, 100%. And like now I'm always looking for that. Like my whole album Familia was about me trying to like recreate that for myself and like building my world as an adult, like having friends and family and like the community sense of it, like the kind of like open door.
With the ocean
household.
air and the fans and the food and
an open door, and like anybody can come in at any time, and like you go and.
And when did you realize that you have an amazing voice?
I always liked how I sounded, but I think it wasn't until an adult, which was my drama teacher, my first drama teacher in Miami, was like, you have a really, really good voice. I was like, oh wow, I can actually sing. That's crazy. Because I was really, really shy growing up.
Do you remember that teacher's name who told you that you could sing?
Mr. Nardone. He was the first person actually that I like sang in front of, like an adult. I used to sing with like my friends all the time, but we had to audition for the school musical as part of our grade. So there was like no getting out of it.
What part did you play?
I remember I sang Listen by Beyonce. It was just like me and him in the room because you would
That's not an easy song.
I know, no. It was actually too ambitious. He was like, you're really, really good. If I gave you a big part, like, would you want that? And I was like, because I was just I just had such bad stage fright. I thought that I would like, I was so afraid of like forgetting lines and like.
Have you seen him or talked to him since?
He actually passed away.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
But he was so influential to every student that he had.
He was one of those.
He was one of those. Like,
did you sing with your dad when you were a kid?
No, I never sang in front of my family.
Why?
I was just so shy. I don't know. I was really shy. I would get really overstimulated when I was a kid. Like those family parties that I was telling you about too. Like when I was little, people would be dancing and I would just get like really overwhelmed and cry. Or when people sang happy birthday to me, I would get really sensitive and overstimulated and cry.
You didn't want the attention.
I didn't want,
So how did that shift?
I'm still kind of like that. I'm like a person that loves art and expressing myself artistically, but I'm like also really I'm really sensitive. Like I don't like a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like,
I do. It's why I've learned to not take general criticism from everybody. Like, and why I don't read reviews or anything. It's like,
well, literally me too.
I trust criticism from somebody who is a fellow artist or somebody who whose artistry or opinion or vision I really respect. But it's important for me to not just leave myself open to anybody's opinion because everybody's got them, and my creativity is so vulnerable.
That's exactly how I feel.
Were you always a writer?
I would write songs with friends, like here and there, like for fun, like always since I was little, since I can remember. English was like my favorite class, and I would love like creative writing and essays. And then I was like obsessed with singing, and then I was in a girl group, and then I got really into singer-songwriter music, and then I was like, oh, now I'm like obsessed. This is like the next thing that I'm obsessed with.
And you're still there, kind of?
Yeah. I'm so obsessed with songwriting. It's so fun. As I get older, like I just want to spend more time in Mexico, and I want to spend more time in Miami, and I want to listen to Latin music more. And that's been like a really big source of inspiration for me because I left home. I left Miami when I was 15. So I feel like I'm just like, now in this age, I'm kind of like, where do I fit in? Like, where do I belong? Like, what place feels like home to me? I don't really know yet.
I was going to ask you, it seems like you've been on the move a lot in your life. So I know maybe you're looking for the geography of home, but are there things like rituals that make you feel at home or foods that make you feel at home?
I mean, my dad's like tacos, like when he makes carnitas tacos.
Yeah.
Anytime that I'm homesick or I feel like ungrounded or if I've had a bad day, I need like Mexican or Cuban food. My dad would go to the pulguero in Homestead and get carnitas and make us tacos with lime and cilantro and cebollita.
Oh my gosh.
Ah, so good.
So can we play a game?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have some pictures of you.
Okay.
And I want to play show and tell.
Okay.
This picture, I mean, what is happening with this cutie patootie?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is in Cuba, and my grandpa would always take me to this park called Parque Leni, and he would take me and my cousin Gabby. I was like the gum on her shoe, like I wanted to be with her all the time. When I moved to Miami, I didn't see her for like, must have been like 8 or 9 years. And then an intention that I have like for my future family will be to like recreate that feeling of like the cousins and all the different generations in the house. Yeah.
Tell me about this one. This is so cute.
That was my first Christmas in Miami.
Oh, wow.
And I was 7, and it was just me and my mom. My dad hadn't come to Miami yet. And there was like a big Disney calendar that I had, and there was a date for like when my dad was gonna come back to Miami. And I think it was September 15th, because I remember I would like exit out. It was like a year after we were there. So my dad had not yet come to Miami. It was just me and my mom, and we were like at a family friend's house.
Princesa.
Yeah.
What's happening?
Snow White. That was my first Halloween.
Oh, you
in
were
Miami,
Snow
in the
White
United
for Halloween.
States. Yep. I think that might have been in first grade. And that was in my school, Pinecrest Elementary in Miami. So we actually, my mom used a fake address for me to go to that school. So it was like the best school. Immigrant parents, they hustle.
Listen,
They hustle.
whoever gets the job done,
Seriously.
right? You came to get what's best for your kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you know your mom was lying to get you into that school? Did it feel like you were in a school with like different kinds of kids? Did you sense the difference in the neighborhoods between your school
I
and...
definitely did when I was older. Like it's something my friends and I talk about all the time now. Like we're like, do you notice how like 99% of the popular kids were like really rich? Thank God we had uniform actually, because I remember
it's a great equalizer.
It's a great equalizer. Like it's a lot of pressure for kids who don't have that much money, because it's such a status symbol, and even subconsciously, like the popular kids were the ones that had the real Hollister shirts and
That's
like
right. Or the
anytime-
name brand loafer instead of the knockoff. That's what when I went to
You
a school with
too?
uniforms too, and it did allow more evenness, a feeling of a more democratic feeling, but you still knew what girls had the
still
real
knew.
Manolos and what girls had the
Totally.
knockoffs.
Did you
and-
have that same experience? Were you-
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. I think that was probably part of my shyness too. Like I think that there's a confidence with like having money at that time, even if you don't realize it, like in hindsight.
I love that you have this picture as one of the Disney princesses, because I was going to ask you about
Yeah.
Cinderella.
Yeah.
And being, the first Latina Cinderella. I
Yeah.
mean, just so iconic and such a beautiful performance.
Thank
And
you.
what did that mean to you to play Cinderella on the screen and to transform how we think about that character?
It was so fun, and also, it's such a kind of a character that's like in the mainstream, and to have somebody that like looks like me, that also has a story like mine. I see that kind of representation, really the effect that it has on real people, because I've met a couple girls that are like Cuban, like me, like with such a similar journey as me.
I remember I was doing the prom with James Corden at
Yes.
the time.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we were sitting together in the hair and makeup trailer, and he was watching dailies.
Oh my gosh.
Because you guys had just started.
Yeah.
And he was so excited and so
Yeah.
happy with everything he was seeing.
I remember when he sent me an email and he was like, "You're doing so great." And I was like, "Thank you."
Yeah.
Because I really enjoy acting. Like
Yeah.
I actually love acting as another form of artistic
expression.
I really do. I just think it's a way of just like being present with somebody and
Yeah.
being you and being vulnerable. Like I've actually never felt more vulnerable than when I was doing Cinderella.
I think it's really amazing that your parents told you that you were coming here to go to Disney World, and then that you wound up like literally stepping into the shoes of a princess when you
I know,
got
it's
here.
so full circle.
It's like it's like Cinderella's castle was the thing you were promised, and you got
Oh
that
my
and so much
God.
more.
Yeah, that is so
Isn't that
full
amazing?
circle.
It's really so tremendous. If you were a fairy godmother to that little Camila, what would you say to her? What kind of wisdom would you bless her with if you could go back and visit her?
I think I would tell her that I was worthy of taking up space, because I feel like with some people, that I felt comfortable around, I could be really, really myself. And then around kids, like the popular kids, or I would feel really, really shy and like suffocatingly nervous. I feel like I would have told her that I was worthy of taking up space and always being myself no matter who was around.
I really love hearing more about your story because I think about some of like your biggest bangers, like the Havana or Bam Bam, like that you are really changing also the sound and the look of what is pop culture now, right? Like nobody is having to take on a gringa voice to translate your name, right? Like people know who you are, they know the sound, they're like hearing Latin music and culture through you. That must be such a tremendous gift. That must feel like such a gift that you can do that.
Totally. And it feels like really, it's cool because it feels like a gift to myself because it's my way of, I feel the most myself when I am, you know, reconnecting with those roots and like being as like authentic as possible. It's like there are things that are in Latin music and in Latin language and Latin slang that are just like, you can't really get from American music and vice versa too. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. But like having both of those makes me feel like really, really complete.
As I said, for me, this is about like, what's your once upon a time? So if you were going to kind of write the fable of your life with you at the center of your hero's journey, obviously, what would be the first 3 sentences of your fairy tale, starting with once upon a time?
Ooh. Once upon a time, there was a girl who came from a family. They were brave enough to want something more, something better. And they constantly set an example of what it means to be brave, be loyal, be kind, and be strong.
I love that. And if you were gonna write a song about Calle 86, how would it start?
Oof. It would probably be not a ballad, but more kind of like this kind of feeling of you want to go back to something, but it's like there's kind of nothing to go back to. That makes sense. My grandparents are no longer there. Most of my family is in Miami and the rest have passed away. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So kind of like a
longing
complicated...
for the memory.
Yeah, totally.
It's beautiful. Yeah. I can't wait to hear it. I can't wait for the special thanks on your album.
Yeah. The co-write.
Tell me about Lotus House, because this season on Street You Grew Up On, we're able to have some resources to be able to give to our guests, to give to the organizations that mean a lot to them, and you're giving your money to Lotus House. Tell us about Lotus House.
I really like the work that they do. They provide a lot of mental health resources and all kinds of resources to women experiencing homelessness in Miami. And I can only imagine a lot of those women are immigrant women too.
And survivors, a lot of them.
Yeah, so I just, I want to support people that are doing great work in my community, in my corner of the world.
I love that. Yeah. I love that because it makes me think of your mom, you know, not having everything that you had just a moment ago in your former home.
Totally. I mean, it's, I always talk about this, like when it comes to the case of like the Dreamers or, you know, like when stuff started getting really bad with ICE, that could have been my mom. You know, if I wasn't born in Cuba and I was born in Mexico instead, wouldn't have been in the United States. Like, you don't realize how fragile life is. So many of these things that end up from the outside looking like this person did a bad thing. Oh, this person is homeless and that means this, this, and this about them. It's like you judge people so hard, but it's like that could have been you. And it would have nothing to do with who you are
you made,
as a person.
Or who you are as a person. If you had been born later and had been separated from your mother at the border, like so many of these kids, like that force that was like, I'm going to get her in the best school with the best teachers so that she can unlock who she is.
Met Mr. Nardone.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think about Mr. Nardone when you're on The Voice?
Like I talked about him the other day.
Really?
Yeah, because this one contestant was like, oh, I was really, really shy, and it was one teacher that inspired me. And I was like, those teachers, man.
I had a couple of drama teachers in high school.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, really, like, one is Mr. Coleman, who, like, from a very young age just saw me and was just gave me so much responsibility, like put me in Shakespeare, and
That's cool. What character did you play?
it was Ophelia. My mom, I saw my mom was crying when she was watching the show.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought like, oh wow, if even my mom could for a second think that I was somebody else, like maybe I am good at this thing.
Wow.
Isn't it funny, those moments where you think like, oh.
That's cool that your brain went there. Like if my mom can believe
I
that
came from her. She knows exactly who I am.
Yeah, totally. Because I feel like my grandma, like I could just like, I don't know, fart on stage and she'll cry. Like at this point, it's like, yeah.
I'm sure your farts are very melodic.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get some whistle tones in there.
I love it. Anyway, thank you so much.
This was so fun.
So fun.